Hi, I'm Anne-Marie. You know, I think of myself as a pretty lucky person. All my life I've enjoyed talking to people, and now I have a chance to sit down with some great entertainers, fascinating political figures, and today, a sports legend. Winner of every NHL award, Stanley Cup champion, 5 times the NHL's leading goal scorer, Hockey Hall of Famer, Sports Hall of Famer, and definitely his own man. Number 9, the Golden Jet, Robert Marvin Hull.
I guess I go back to my boyhood. First thing, I think every red-blooded Canadian dreamed about playing in the National Hockey League. And I was no different than anyone else. I was one of those red-blooded Canadians that wanted to play in the National Hockey League. And I don't care, and I didn't care back then what team it was. And I was going to do whatever I had to do to fulfill that dream. And it goes as far back as I can remember. It was only a matter of time or when I got big enough that I was going to be a National Hockey League player. And my dad was a pretty good country hockey player. They called him the Blonde Flash.
I heard he had a lot to do with you.
He was raised in, we were raised in Point Anne, a little town just east of Belleville, Ontario, right on the shores of the Bay of Quinte. And as the story went, my 2 elder sisters took me one in either hand the Christmas that I was 4 out onto the old open-air rink that was kept up by the Canada Cement Company at that time, where my dad used to play Mill League hockey. And before the day was out, I was supposed to be skating, and they couldn't catch me before to take me home that particular evening. And I think what sticks in my mind most of all was those formative years where my dad would take me out in either the old open-air rink or the frozen Bay of Quinte and say, "Robert, you skate this way, you skate that way, you shoot this way, you shoot that way, you stop this way, you stop that way, you pass this way and you pass that way." And if I didn't do it right, I heard about it. And all those formative years stuck in my memories. And I think my dad and Mom wore out 6 or 8 cars, taking myself and my 3 other brothers to play hockey and to play baseball and football, and I certainly appreciated that. They were my biggest critics. My dad was my biggest critic. My mother was my greatest fan.
You're obviously a natural. Did you have any idea when you were playing junior A hockey about how good you were? Did you know?
I was never really a natural. I worked at becoming anything that I became. I was always a very ambitious kid. I never did anything walking. I always at high speed or at a dog trot, doing whatever it was as a kid. I shoveled enough snow likely to cover most of these boroughs here in the Toronto area.
I made a buck or 2 shoveling snow myself.
There you go. You know, of course you're quite a lot younger than I am, but you remember what you had to do as a kid. And I'm from a family of 11, and I did all I could to help put at the end of pay a little bit of bread, a little butter, a little sausage, a little hamburger on the table for everyone. So I worked hard at what I was doing. I did whatever I did full out. There was no halfway whatever I did. And I've seen me go over to the old open-air rink at 6 in the morning. I was the eldest boy, and if we hadn't had oatmeal in the morning, old Robin Hood oatmeal, we'd have starved to death. And I used to put the old aluminum porridge pot on and put so much water in and a little bit of salt, and call my mother, put it on the old Finlay oval cook stove, and head for the rink with my skates on. And I've seen me start shoveling at 6 in the morning and still be at it at 4 and 5 in the afternoon.
Wow. Rudy Pillis must have had a great sense of your value. How did he most influence your career?
Well, he was the guy that sat me on my keister for indifferent play, and he made a big fuss about negatively about me going to the Blackhawks when I turned pro, because he wanted another Memorial Cup in St. Catharines. And the 2 years I was there, 56, 55, 56, 56, 57, they won the Memorial Cup before I was there, and they won it after when my teammate and good friend Stan Mikita played with a broken hand and won the scoring championship and won the Memorial Cup. But he made a big fuss about me going to Chicago. He said that I wasn't ready and blah, 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 and they were making a mistake. And Christmas time, lo and behold, who was our coach in Chicago?
Wow.
But Rudyard Pillis. So then it was a little change of venue there. And I played, the first year we got out of 6th place into 5th. The next year we ended up in 3rd spot, and we're in the playoffs, and we're beaten out by Montreal in the first round. And in the playoffs that year, I get a little ahead of myself, was the second year when we got into the playoffs. Rudy Pillis, again, you asked me what advice he had given me. He took me from center at the end of the season, and we were playing the Montreal Canadiens. He put me on left wing. And again, I balked. I said, what's this, putting me at left wing? I'd never known anything but facing off, get that little black thing and go with it. And at the end of that second year, after we were beaten out by Montreal and Boston had scheduled an exhibition tour in Europe, 23 games in the month. And some of the New York players, Andy Bathgate, I think, Bill Gadsby, Hebbenton, Prentice, maybe, I could be proven wrong, but some of those guys couldn't go. And as soon as we were beaten out by Montreal, the New York Ranger organization were in touch with us, and they asked Eddie Litzenberger, Eric Nestorenko, Pierre Pilat, and myself if we'd go over to fill in the vacancy left by the New York players. And that's when I learned how to play the game over there.
Wow.
Played again, though. I played at center, and I had Eddie Shack on the left wing and Eddie Litzenberger on the right.
What a lineup.
And I wanted to play, I wanted to see and do everything in Europe. Climb the Eiffel Tower, which I did step by step, and see all the sights. So I was a little tired when it would come to play the games. And I would just tell Eddie Shack, I said, Eddie, every shift, go wide, go around that defense, and if you can't cut in on the goal, before you go behind the net, look out in the slot, I'll be there, and just feed it out there, and I'll put it in. And that's how it happened. I said, heck, this is the way the game should be played. Let someone else carry the puck, get it to me, so I can shoot it,
You just
and
finished.
it'll be in the net.
You closed the deal.
That's right. So that's how it all happened. I came home, and I told my dad, I said, I came home from Europe, I said, Dad, I'm going to win the scoring championship this year.
And did
He said,
you?
yeah, you, with the help of Hame. And I won the scoring championship that year.
Good for
As a
you.
matter of fact, scored 39 goals and had 81 points and beat Bronco Horvath out in the last play of the 70th, we played 70 games that year. In the 70th game, the last shift, I got an assist. I went the length of the ice, went around the net, got forced in the corner, went around the net, just blindly threw it out in front. It hit Eric Nestorenko in the skate and went in. And that was my
Wow.
whatever number of points to get to 81, and I beat Bronco Horvath by 1 point for the first scoring championship, and I was 21 then.
You also won at the same time. You were being awarded for good sportsmanship, which is quite amazing in terms of, I mean, when you're a big scorer, you're considered an aggressive player, and seldom do you get the two together. It's pretty
That was a
amazing.
little later. I don't know what year that was that I won the Lady Byng, and I would expect, along with being in the running for the Hart Trophy this year, my son Brett, no doubt, will win the Lady Byng. He's not only a great player, but he's a good kid. He's got a good head and plays the game well within the rules. And I wouldn't doubt that when they're handing out awards at the National Hockey League Awards night, that Brett will, amongst others, hopefully, he'll be getting the Lady Byng. But I did win the Lady Byng, and it was with quite a few penalty minutes, but I played so much, and under the circumstances, there wasn't anyone else that had that great a year and with fewer penalty minutes than I, and I happened to win that.
When Wayne Gretzky left the Edmonton Oilers to move to LA, it caused one heck of a furor, but it was nothing compared to the stir that was caused when you left the NHL to join the WHA.
Well, that was a little bit different. This, back in '72, was the first time that anyone had really challenged the NHL, and I'd challenged Chicago a few years before that on different occasions, and just felt that we were being taken advantage of, and we weren't really getting our just dues. And I used to stand at the blue line when they played the national anthem in Chicago, and I used to look over the filled seats in the old Chicago Stadium, and they used to say that there were 16,666 people there, but I know for a fact there were 22,000 people there every night.
Wow.
That we played, and of course they had to appease the fire marshals. Right. And I used to multiply that, and I think the average seat at that time was about $6 or $7. Mm-hmm. And we used to play your 40 games plus playoffs plus exhibition. And I'm not a great mathematician, but I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. And I knew that added up to a good many hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And I said, there are 22 of us maybe on the roster making an average of about $12,000 to $15,000 a year. I said, someone's making a lot of money here. And all of a sudden, in 1972, when I'd played out my playing part of my contract, Chicago Blackhawks didn't feel they had to offer me a contract. The WHA, they worked consistently and almost daily after me, and finally it got to the point where I told the WHA that I had no inclination ever to play in Winnipeg or for the WHA. I said, you've got your $1 million worth of advertising, now just leave me alone. So I told my accountant, Harvey Weinberg, and I said, Harvey, I said, just tell him that I don't want to talk to them anymore. He said, Bobby, all they want to know is how much will it take for you to come to Winnipeg? I said, Harvey, I don't want to go to Winnipeg. I'm not going to Winnipeg. I want to finish my career with the Chicago Blackhawks. Because at that time I thought I had an Indian head, Pierre Platte's picture tattooed right here in my chest. And he said, just give them a figure and then they'll go away. So I thought I wanted to play. I was 32 years old at that time. I wanted to play 5 more years, and I knew that Chicago would pay me $250,000 a year when push came to shove. So I thought that the WHA had offered me, Ben Hatskin had offered me $250,000 a year as a player as long as I wanted to play, and then $100,000 a year as a coach or manager or whatever, or water boy, whatever I wanted to do after that. So I told him, I said, Harvey, I said, if I go to the WHA and it folds, I'm going to be out $1 million because I'm not going to want to come back to the NHL. They're not going to want me. So, and I'm not going to hold Ben Hatskin and his group up in Winnipeg for $1 million when I'm not doing anything for it. That's not the kind of guy I am. If I work, then I want to get paid. If I don't work, then I don't get paid. Mm-hmm. So I said, tell him it's going to cost him $1 million up front, and then I'll come. And I said, that'll get rid of him. Now, mind you, this is back in 1972. No professional athlete had ever been paid $1 million. Phenomenal. So I said, that will get rid of him, then we'll get on with some serious negotiation with Chicago. So he called me back, and I said, laughing and jokingly, I said, well, what would they have to say? They said, don't do anything until they talk to you. I said, you don't mean to tell me that they're going to try to raise $1 million for this cowboy?
And
they told me afterwards, and it took them about a week, but they told me afterwards they had the money in 2 days. Now, had I known they were ever going to try to raise the money, I'd have said $10 million. Just to get rid of them.
No,
and they may have come back with 5. Who knows?
You never know.
It's like I tell Brett. I said, Brett, it seems to me that you and the guy representing you don't realize how valuable you are. I said, it seems just that the old man here knows how valuable you are. You're worth millions of dollars. I said, when they'd pay this cowboy $1 million back in '72, and they didn't even have rinks that would hold this many people, and you've got 21 teams playing here, I said, don't you realize how much money you're worth, being one of the 2 greatest young players in the game? And I class he and Yzerman as 2 of the great young players in the game. So back then, I try. So back then, that's when it happened, and I gave him my word. This was just over the telephone. No written, no writing, no contract, just telling them if they raised $1 million, they had themselves a player. And they raised $1 million, and I said, I'm gone. And then the day before I left for Winnipeg to sign, to go to St. Paul to sign, Chicago delivered, hand-delivered, a 5-year, $250,000 a year contract to me, $1,250,000. I said, you can take this back to Mr. Wirtz. I said, it's too late.
Wow.
That's how it happened. And Bill Wirtz would like everyone to think that I held Chicago up for $1 million, which is absolutely erroneous. I never asked them for anything but to offer me a contract. And they never ever did until that particular day.
Your move also changed the salaries of professional athletes forever. So although there were some people who were angry with you, Stan Mikita tells the story that for years after you made the move, he would get up in the morning, he would try and figure out what direction you would be in that day, and he would go, thank you, Bobby, for what you did. Thank you, Bobby.
Well, you know, he's one of the two that actually came out and in so many words said thank you. A lot of these young players today think they're doing it on their own.
Right.
A lot of them we wouldn't have been invited to training camp as far as that's concerned. But Wayne Cashman, 1972, of course, when I was not included in the Team Canada 72 team, because I went to Winnipeg, guys like Eagleson and Campbell and I'm sure Wirtz and some of the other people in the National Hockey League at that time blackballed me from going, and I was in Vancouver at the time for the 4th game, and happened to be in a little watering hole at the Ritz where a lot of the guys were, and a friend of mine out there, Ewan Lazarick, was looking for some tickets for his family, and Brother Dennis had got me a couple, and I'd asked a couple of the other guys, and then Wayne Cashman came in. And if you don't know Wayne, you would have to know him to realize that he was boisterous, came in, and a lot of people were giving him the business about losing to the Soviets at that time, and they were behind. And Wayne let them know in no uncertain terms what he thought of them, and then he came to the table and he looked at me and I said, hi Wayne, how are you? He said, Bobby, how? I said, Wayne, I said, this is Ewan Lazarick. He was looking for a couple of tickets for tonight's game. Would you happen to have any? And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a half a dozen tickets. And he said, here, Bobby. I said, okay, Wayne, how much do I owe you? He said, how much do you owe me? He said, how much do I owe you along with all these other guys? He said, you just tripled my salary when you went to the WHA. And he said, I say thank you.
All right.
They were the only two guys that really came up to me and in so many words thanked me for what I had done.
Your strength and speed as a hockey player are absolutely legendary. What was it that you did to acquire those special skills?
You said earlier that I was gifted, and that's why I'd like to go back to that and say that I wasn't gifted. Sure, I was gifted with a couple of parents that had heritage genes with strengths of body and strength of mind and strong characters, and I inherited a lot of that. But if everyone that played in the National Hockey League or any other league went around the rink as often as I did, at the speed that I did, and shoveled as much snow as I did, and stayed out after practice as often as I did, and shot thousands of pucks into that 4x6 opening, then they might have been able to do something also. There are some things, and I don't believe in anything except that there is an even or upper. And as my wife says, what goes around comes around. Or I always say, the mills grind slow but exceedingly sure. And if you put good things into life, you'll get good things out. But life isn't all a bowl of cherries, and once in a while you stick a few zingers in there, and you get zinged back.
You've had some pretty hefty zingers, though.
Oh, that's all those things that build character in a person.
Divorce was very difficult.
It wasn't difficult for me so much. It was difficult for my kids. I've got a strong mind and a strong back, and I can accept a lot of things. And two grown-up people can, in time, match things out.
Yeah.
But kids, it's a little different.
You have
some of them were some of them were at the point where they could understand back then. Two or three of them weren't at that time old enough and knowing enough to realize that it was better off the way it happened.
Have you managed to stay close to them over the years?
Of course, the kids are kids, and they know that I'm there when they need me. The two older boys knew right away.
You're one of the greatest hockey players ever to have graced the sport. Is there any chance that you'll ever get involved with hockey again?
I kind of doubt that. There are times when I see the way kids are being handled that I certainly would like to be involved, so I could impart upon them some of the wisdom that I've learned over the 23 years. And you're so warm.
You'd be such a great encouragement to young people in the sport.
Well, I would hope that I could get across to them what it takes to be an asset, not only to the professional hockey league that they want to play in, or the junior hockey league, but to be to think right, to be the right kind of person. And we talked earlier about the 1974 to 78 Winnipeg Jets that we were able to put together, and I was a big part of that. I wanted guys with good heads and good hearts first. Mm-hmm. And I knew that they would all be leaders and there'd be no problems with those kind of people. And that's what I could instill in people. These kids today aren't being told properly. Their agents get them a big pocket full of money, but they don't tell them what they should do for it. When I played, we played just for the love, for the pride. Every time I pulled that crimson sweater over my head with Pierre Palat's picture on the front of it, I wasn't going to do anything to disgrace that. I'd just like to
You've always been so open with your fans, with the press. Do you think that's has that been tougher on you? Do you think it might have been easier if you'd been a little standoffish?
Again, I tell you, I never second guess myself. I say what's on my mind, and I'll suffer the consequences, because what I say is the way I think, and I generally have backup for what I say.
So, Bobby Hull, no regrets?
Not a bit. If I could do it all over again, I'd do it the very same way. And if I could skate the way I used to be able to skate and shoot the way I used to be able to shoot, I'd do her all over again the very same way. All ahead, 100%.
Thank you.
No looking back. Thanks.